Good morning. Thank you for joining our Core4 Exhibit Solutions webcast. I'm your host, Sharon Baird, and we're recording this morning. There's no arguing that the COVID-19 pandemic has created financial havoc across the globe. Social distancing and the resulting stay-at-home orders have affected individual businesses, entire industries, and the one that it's affected that I'm involved with is the live events industry. This industry is dependent on in-person interactions, and its interruption has been complete and brutal. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. A couple of weeks ago, Core4 became a member of Go Live Together. And speaking of welcome news, one of my people I'm very fond of that works for the 96-year-old powerhouse Koelnmesse Trade Fair Organization is joining us today. He's been with them since December of 2007 and is currently the Vice President of Trade Fair Management. And I personally have known Mr. Pollmann for several years because the company that I work for exhibits at Interzum at Koelnmesse in Cologne, Germany. Thank you for joining me, Matthias, and welcome.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me at your webcast. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
So what I'd like to discuss is some exciting news I read last week. It sounds like the country of Germany has left limitations on live event gatherings until the end of August, but they excluded exhibitions from that and are allowing exhibitions to start phasing in some activity. And my understanding is that it's being left at the state level to make those determinations. And I read that one of the first states is the state that houses Koelnmesse, which is very exciting to me. And I just want to understand a little bit, because my understanding is they're still working on the finalization of what that process looks like. But what has the decision process been like? How did the conversations start? What were some of the initial guidances?
Yeah, it was a long way until today, and to this decision last week, which was made from the federal government in Germany. And as you just said, Sharon, we have 16 states in Germany, and each state can now decide on how to deal with mass events, with exhibitions, and really with most of the questions regarding it coming back to the, let's say, normal life or the pre-corona life. In the beginning, we really had from our point of view, really difficult discussion, because it was said that mass events are not allowed to take place minimally until end of August. And of course, we do not see each with a B2B show, for example, like the Oktoberfest in Bavaria, which is not really comparable. But in the beginning, in the political discussion, it was all the same. And then we started as the, let's say, the main exhibition organizers in Germany, together with the Association of Exhibition Organizers in Germany. We started, like a bit like lobbying and political talks to say, okay, definitely B2B shows need to take place because they are really important to make business again after the crisis. The people are not in a party mood like at the Oktoberfest or at Carnival in Cologne, so it's really different, although there are, let's say, perhaps 100,000 people coming to an exhibition, but it's different from 100,000 people coming to a party or whatever. But this took some time, and as you can imagine, we are a small industry compared to automotive industry, for example, in Germany. So we really need a voice, and you really need to have the right approach to come to the politicians, to address the politicians. We in Northern Westphalia have a government which is really pro-exhibitions, I have to say. We have really good contacts there to the also to the government. And for us, it was really important to say, okay, we understand that not everything is possible, but let's talk about what is possible. And therefore now it's our task, of course, and we are nearly finished with that, to develop a plan to say, okay, with these regulations, which we can offer and which we can have at our fairground, we want you, government, to say, okay, you can do an exhibition again. And there are different measurements we can talk later on, which we have now given in a paper or written down in a paper, and which will be discussed or are discussed already. And I hope that there will be a final decision until the end of next week, so that they really say, okay, you are allowed to do exhibitions beginning from September onwards. At the moment, everything is canceled here in Cologne. We are not doing any exhibition, very small congresses or meetings, but unfortunately, no real exhibition.
I can't wait for those to come back.
Yeah, right.
So when you get because I assume you've kind of gone ahead with the thought process of what would be required on the fairgrounds to accommodate social distancing and all those kinds of things. And I know the fairgrounds is currently about 400,000 square meters of exhibition and open space. Is that correct? So will you need to because this is what I just boggles my mind. I think so exhibitions like the ones that I do, the size of the stand itself has people close in. So does that mean, for instance, like at Interzum, I think we only use a portion of the halls. Does that mean that we spread out into all the halls so that there's more space? Or what do those kinds of measures, like as you're starting planning, what do those look like to you right now, obviously?
Yeah, it's a huge matrix with it's a huge Excel sheet which we have where really many different figures are very important to say at the end. Okay, which measurements are necessary to open this show? For example, when we talk about Interzum, we have pretty huge stand areas from the exhibitors, which is good because there's much more space then. Of course, what is the most important thing is the social distancing topic, which we have. So at the moment, we have different plans, beginning with distance from 1.5 meters to 2 meters, and we are simulating these with this tool these situations. So we say, for example, if we have a social distancing from 1.5 meters, which is necessary, we could do an Interzum with the same aisles which we had last time, with the same stand construction which we had last time.
Yeah.
So that would be possible. But there are some regulations to open the show then. For example, we need to know who is on the fairground every day and how long was he on the fairground. So we need what we have at Interzum and our other shows, luckily as well. We need a full registration from every exhibitor, also before the show starts in construction time, and of course from every visitor. So you will no longer be able to just say, I buy a ticket without giving your name or your email address or whatever. So this is really important, and this is fundamental for reopening, because if there is something happening, we need to know who was around, and in the best case, who was in which hall. So you only do not need one checkpoint in the, let's say, entrance and the exit, but nearly at every hall. For the exhibitor, of course, it's also important to think about the social distancing aspect, how the stand is constructed at the end. So when I think of Leg and Platt, I think it would be pretty easy to be able to do this social distancing, because you have a huge amount of square meters, you have some space, you have these areas where you can sit down. Of course, you can put some tables more far away. So this is easier than for other exhibitors. But this is something which the exhibitor has to keep in mind when they start to plan their stand construction. A really huge topic for us is our event areas and congresses, which take place, of course, during shows. One example, if you think about, we have one very huge congress room where I think 700 people could be in the pre-corona time. Now we are thinking about perhaps 60 to 100 people maximum. So then, of course, you have to think about, is it really worth to do the Congress there? Or will we be able to stream the content to other places in the exhibition center, that someone can be there with their mobile phone and can just hear to what another guy is saying in the Congress center? So these are all questions to get the people more away from each other. What is unfortunately no longer allowed is a party. So exhibition parties, which are also huge or important factor, of course, also for the socializing part of the show.
Yes.
This will definitely be not able in the beginning. Definitely, I don't think in January and February. I do not know in May, to be honest. Perhaps if we have some medication, but I don't think so, to be honest.
So
That
much
this will.
changes so quickly, but yes,
Yeah.
I think you're right. It probably will be. So that probably affects catering, everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, catering is a huge topic for us. I mean, you have the question how you give the food or the drinks to the guest. I mean, do you really have it in your hand, or what are you doing with that?
Yes.
And of course, if you have a social distancing, let's stay with these 1.5 meters. Of course, exhibition crowded. You have during lunchtime there is much traffic and people are queuing there. But
Hmm.
if you have to queue with 1.5 meter distance, how long should the queue be? So you need more catering areas, smaller ones perhaps, and not just one or two or three huge restaurants.
Yes.
So at the moment, yeah, we have, as you know, our catering partner, and we are working with them on different concepts on how to, bring food and drinks to the people in a pretty quick way, without, giving up the social distancing
Yes.
measurements which we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's
it's
interesting.
really, I mean, when you just think about all these things, you really then, while thinking, you really recognize it affects everything which we have.
Everything.
Beginning from the entrance, beginning from how do you come to the fairground? I mean, yeah, the whole public transportation system, then staying there, waiting until, let's say, 9 o'clock in the morning when the exhibition starts. How does this work? Um, for example, we will no longer sell tickets on our fairground, but you can only buy them online. So,
Hmm.
for example, if you have, let's say, forgotten to buy your ticket before, you have to buy it online via your mobile phone. Then you get the QR code, as already known, can go through the entrance, but there will be no people at the cash desks, because we do not want to have queues there. We want the people to really just directly go into the exhibition ground. So it affects everything. The
Uh,
wardrobe people. Um, so we do not want to have, of course, much contact there. So there will be. I mean, in May it's not a huge problem because the weather is mostly nice. But if you have a show in winter, of course, there are many people giving their codes. So it will be a bit easier now to just give them, and you get a digital receipt then, and that's it. But yeah, it affects everything. Yeah.
that is quite an undertaking. I just picture the grounds in my mind and think about how they're. I believe I did the American math for it, and I think it's the size of 33 football fields, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. Yeah.
It's very large.
It's really
Um,
large. But
so
that's
you
at the
finished.
end, it's good for us, Sharon, that it's so large,
That's
because
true because there's room to spread out.
we can use this. Yeah.
Yes. You kind of touched on this. When I come to Cologne, I fly. I go through the airport. I take the train. I take a cab to come to Koelnmesse and stay in a hotel. What's the cooperative nature of the rest of the supporting industries that help make a trade show, an exhibition happen?
Perhaps let's start with the transportation. I mean, flying is, yeah, of course, very restricted at the moment. And I think you follow the discussions as well from the flight companies, how they will rebuild their business. At the
Yes.
moment, they start, I think, beginning in 2 weeks. There are some flights in Europe, of course, but Lufthansa, for example, they will start to have more flights in Europe. I think, I'm not quite sure, I think beginning of June or mid of June. And the political discussions are at the moment regarding your holidays, if it will be possible to do holidays in other European countries. So it gets a bit easier in the discussion. But at the end, today, when you fly, you have to wear your mask. You're not allowed to enter the plane without. The same for public transportation in Cologne. And for trains in Germany, you have to wear a mask, and they control it. Taxi drivers as well, they wear masks. You have to wear a mask, and they are divided. I mean, the driver is sitting, of course, in the car, and then you have on the back side, you have one place where you can sit down. In the hotels, as far as I know, they are not able, of course, to do the breakfast, for example, like they did before. So there is less space. So it will be, some hotels are doing it with special time slots. So you have to say, I come at 8 o'clock in the morning and my colleague at 9 or whatever. So you have to register before and not just go there and have a buffet. There will be no buffet. There will be food brought to your desk, then to your table. But the most important thing is that they are open then when we do our shows again.
Yes.
And I think of course, we talk to our hotel partners as well here in Cologne, and they are really happy when we start again in September, of course, because
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah, you can imagine Cologne is an exhibition city, and it's very, very important for the hotels to have the exhibition guests, exhibitors and visitors again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a whole other side that is huge. So I saw a Koelnmesse LinkedIn post that said, and this is me paraphrasing, but it said Koelnmesse has a goal of preparing for the trade fair season to resume by the last quarter of 2020 and is actively pursuing the consultation with authorities in the state and the city of Cologne to quickly meet the legal conditions to obtain approval for these efforts to safely resume. So I know that the goal is to open again at the end of May, and then I assume do essentially 4 months of preparation and authorizations and all of those things to be allowed to have the first trade fair in the fall. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's a huge.
As you had mentioned, virtual events, and I wondered, a lot of the shows that have canceled in America have gone to virtual events, and I tend to be I think kind of typical of face-to-face marketers. I like the in-person, but what do you think of the hybrid events where some is online and some is in person, and have you done them in the past and seen any success with them?
Yeah, we have done it in the past for Gamescom, which is a very huge show which we have here for the computer games industry. And we had last year an opening night with, I do not know the figures by heart, but I think some million viewers. There was a huge opening night, which was then broadcasted or streamed in the whole world. And you could, I think, log in via YouTube or via the Gamescom webpage. So yeah, but it's of course a different topic than furniture industry, I have to say.
We're not quite that advanced.
No, that's not. Different, I would say, different. To be honest, I mean, this hybrid event can be a way, I think, but not hall plan, which is digital, and you can click on each exhibitor and can see a picture from a product. This is, I think, not the good way. What we are now doing at Orgatech, or proposing at Orgatech, is this is a show which has a huge content. We have many congresses there, and then, of course, we have the exhibitors and the innovations of the exhibitors. And I think the mixture is good. You have let's say, the exhibition here in Cologne. You have the matchmaking face-to-face. You have some matchmaking which can be done before, during, or also after the show with people who weren't able to come to Cologne. And then from my point of view as a trade fair organizer, it's important to get this content, which we are developing here during these 4 or 5 days, into the world. And this is something which I can really think about good for digitalization. So for example, we will we will have a event together with Frame, which is a huge let's say agency or a huge player in the architectural market. So we have 2 days of congress there, and these congresses will be broadcasted via our Orgatech webpage, then to viewers around the world. And you can log in there, and you can hear what's going on and what the industry is discussing. So this is something which I think can work, but I do not think that only a virtual show will work when you want to sell furniture or furniture components, for example. This is something which I do not think, and as you can see now, I think we are all happy to see other people more than ever. And, very important. And I mean, we know each other since many years now, and so we can have this discussion, and it's okay for us. But if you want to get to know two new people, which I recognize now, if I have a meeting and someone is introducing himself and I'm new into this group, it's totally different than sitting at a table together or talking at an exhibition via Skype, Zoom, or whatever. And also with young people, sometimes the discussion is like, yeah, they are all digital and they do not need it to go there. They need it because it's different when you say hello and can look into the eyes of each other. And
I really agree that the trust factor is very important, and that contributes to it. So have you thought of any, as we're talking about there having to be less quantities of people in the same place. So is there any talk of like extending exhibition days or people having a pass for one day instead of another? Like, what are some of the strange new ideas to have as many people be able to attend as possible while not being congregated too closely?
Yeah. Some of the measurements you just said, or some of our ideas, perhaps to start with, you know Interzum very well. At the moment, when we have these 1.5 meters social distancing, so we do not need to have less visitors with that. If there is some changes, okay, we have to deal with that. But we have some ideas, as you just said. There will be the possibility to just give out day tickets. So then you, of course, you can. At one point you would be able to say this day is sold out. You will not be able to buy a ticket for that. For example, we are doing that at Gamescom since many years. There we are only selling day tickets because we say we really need to see how many people are at the exhibition round. So this is possible. On the second one, which you just said, we are not thinking about making shows longer from whole days, but thinking about perhaps not finishing at 6 but at 7 p.m. So to leave people a bit longer in the fairgrounds. Some are leaving earlier, so not to have too many people, for example, at the public transportation or at the taxi queues. So to just 1 or perhaps 2 hours more. We are not thinking about doing exhibitions longer, like Interzum, for example, for 5 days now. I don't think that is necessary at our B2B events. But of course, making the days longer and giving out tickets which are valid only for a day, that's definitely something which we are thinking about,
Okay.
And really importantly, registration of everybody who is on our fairground. Exhibitors, so you will not be able, as you know it from the last years, to just say, okay, I need 40 exhibitor passes and I give it out to whoever I want to, but we really need the name of everybody who has an exhibitor pass in his hand.
I have always attended the air shows, and they require your badge has your photograph and your name on it. So different, it is done at some shows. I just was so excited to talk to you when I read that. I was like, I have got to talk to Matthias and see what the process is, because since America hasn't quite gotten to that point yet, obviously it matters a great deal to us what you're doing and what you learn from the process. And I told Miss Kasha yesterday, if anybody can do this to precision, it will be Germany, because that I just absolutely think that this is a wonderful place for everything to start. So I really enjoy you taking the time and visiting with me today. I know Germany is going to do an amazing job, and I hope to see you in May for Interzum.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the invitation once again. Perhaps we can do a wrap up in summer, and I can tell you a bit more of what we are doing really then.
I would so enjoy that, to see how those first exercises go. Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, I'm looking forward when we really meet each other in Cologne, not only via Zoom, but in person.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Matthias, and everybody else. This is Core4 Exhibit Solutions, and thanks for joining us for our webcast today. And be safe, be well, take care till we see each other again.